Good afternoon. How are you today? Well, it's 87 degrees here, and it was hotter, so I waited until the afternoon to come out. The skies, we have some blue, so the Canadian fires don't seem to be affecting our air quality these days. And whether I need it or not, I get a little bit of a haircut. Somebody referred to me as a hippie. They thought my hair was getting too long. That's not why I did it. This is after I got my haircut. They made that remark. And I don't know if you saw it or not, but when I was a prosecutor, I had hair down to my shoulders. And I tried a case with long hair like that. And they called me the hippie prosecutor in those days. I don't know if that was good or bad, but I got a conviction. And I went to tell the U.S. Attorney, Bob Fisk, what the result was. And I went in and told him, and he was very nice, and he congratulated me. And he always made me think of a Roman senator. I mean, he had such qualities, and still does. And we try to get together with him once a year, which has been messed up a little bit because of the pandemic, at least for me. So he said to me, "Well, John, now you have a few days. You could go get a haircut." And I said, "Hey, Bob, I want you to realize that I got the conviction with this long hair." And so he said, we both laughed. So, I don't know. I've always liked long hair. If I lose my hair, I guess I'll rub my dome. I don't know. The stories this week, they dwell a lot on the Supreme Court of the United States. And when I went to get my hair cut, as I was going in, this woman said to me, "What are we going to do about the Supreme Court?" And I said, I laughed. I said, "Burn it to the ground." Now, FBI, I was just joking. But I do mean that we have to change the court dramatically. And I am a supporter of the 13-person Supreme Court because we have 3 judges that shouldn't be there and got there under questionable circumstances and have questionable ethical stances. And then we also have Alito and Thomas. The Supreme Court's a mess. It's a real mess. And I'll start with the case that I have trouble with because I don't know exactly what is right. But it goes like this. The schooling case. Why should we help people with their loans to get an education? Now, I had loans and scholarships and things like that, and I don't think even working jobs, could have gotten that education if there weren't work-study grants, there weren't low-interest loans, if they didn't have grants and scholarships, if you worked your ass off and got decent grades. I think all of that mattered. But that was a value that, for example, Rockefeller, who was a Republican who headed up New York State, had. And he had Regents scholarships, and I got one of those. A lot of people did. And I thought, he's made possible me getting an education, having an escape, if you will, from the Bronx. And that's the way I saw it. And my dad always said to me that, he would be successful if the next generation, my brother and I, did better than he did. And I wouldn't qualify that to say that he did less in any respect. He served in World War II. He was a plumber, electrician, carpenter. He started his own business. He worked it in part with my brother. He didn't go past high school. But there is a value in education. And I had great advantages from the fact that I could do well in school and could get to school to prove myself, or at least to persuade others that I had something worth supporting. So Republicans are, of course, against anything that encourages thought and education among our young. They believe that if you're educated, you'll become a Democrat and a liberal. Well, Thomas went to Yale, Ford went to Yale, the Bushes got educations. I mean, empirically, it just doesn't work out. But they believe it because they they believe more than that. I think they believe education is unnecessary. They would take us back to the day of women barefoot and pregnant without education, and blacks in the outhouses, and keep them in their sections of town. And they'd want to be very careful what we said, even in a work of art. You may not like what James Joyce wrote, but Ulysses was a major feat. You can go on and on about the differences between these uptight, craven, slow-minded people who want to throw out what's best about America. So, schooling, in my opinion, is one of those things. And yes, some people should look at different kinds of vocations and so forth. But there are also those people out there who don't know what they're going to do, who have talents, and that for them, they could make contributions with more education. Now, my brother wasn't interested much in school, and he didn't go past high school, but he went off and programmed computers and was a coder, and he was naturally smart, but he had no use for school. Neither did my father, frankly. He was a truant as a kid. So when we offer to people the opportunity to get higher education, not just to waste time, but to really learn something that would make them productive, make them happy, and contribute to the community, we should be doing that. The Republicans don't believe that. They don't believe in public schools. They believe, and in my opinion, brace yourself those who think otherwise out there, they believe charter schools, which in my opinion is another way to segregate our community one from another, and with tokenism into the schools, and to drain money from the regular public schools. And the Christian homeschoolers, there are others, but the Christian homeschoolers then think that we should allow them to play in the games that the public schools are playing. This is like a cafeteria way of choosing education. I think anybody who has the gumption to study harder, vocation school, any kind of trade school, they're handy with their hands, and to go on to higher learning. I did think that my momentum to get more education, to have more opportunities, took me past maybe what I needed to have. I had 2 undergraduate degrees, one in physics, one in engineering, a law school degree, and a master's in information science. Did I need all that? I don't know. I actually had a congressman tell me once, John, you don't need this other degree. And maybe he was right. But on a certain level, I did. And it helped at my older age, because there was a gap between law school and this master's. I picked up things that needed to be categorized and understood. And GW Graduate School was very helpful in that regard. So those people who are thinking of graduate school, evaluate it and do it. It's hard work to do that while you're doing everything else, but it's if you need it, you should do it. So loans are part of that package. And the Supreme Court does not understand its function in America. It's no longer a lawgiver. It writes laws in ways that years ago they were telling us no one should do. And they don't give a damn about the ability of a person to get that education. And, well, it goes without saying. And that's why we have to, when I was getting my hair cut, I said to the woman, I said, we shall overcome. And I mean it, even though we think of it rightly as an historic reference to civil rights and liberties. The right to meet your maximum potential, not necessarily in the Marines, but in education and thinking, to perhaps be the person who figures out how to save us from certain disease, figures out how to make government work when it's not. Those kinds of things are critical. So, now, another Supreme Court case, affirmative action. Now let me take a piece of that. A piece of that is, what school do you want to go to? Can you get in? Can you get in if they don't make any effort to help you move from where you are to what it takes to get the most out of Harvard. Now, I'm not saying this because I believe that that's true of blacks. I'm saying that because when I went from grammar school and was first in my class to my first year of high school, where there were 400, I was 77th. Now, there was a scholarship attached if by the third marking period you could get down to 20. And I went to a counselor, and he said, you couldn't do that. And I asked him, well, mathematically, there must be a way. And we talked about it. And so the second rim, I got 40. And the third time it was up, which was when you qualified for a scholarship or not, I was number 20 on the button. And another guy came out of another class, and I heard him saying that he was number 20. And we compared our flimsy papered report cards, and out to the thousandth, we each had exactly the same score. So I had to adjust what I understood was my ability from grammar school to high school. They gave the scholarship to both of us, and by the end of the year, I was fourth in the class, and I got another scholarship from somebody who didn't need it. So that's the educational framework that they would compromise by pushing back against affirmative action. And sure, maybe when I went to law school or somewhere along the line, because of affirmative action, somebody else would get a spot that I could have if I didn't care to advance America forward to the equality that we bragged was our starting point, our first promise. And this promise we haven't done so well on, and we haven't done so well on it right now. So if you're going to ask today, is this a good time to say affirmative action has done all it has to do? No, not when we're shooting unarmed black children. We're killing people suspected of misdemeanors. We do all manner of things to celebrate discrimination, particularly among the Republicans and particularly among Trump, who is, their apparent standard bearer, whom we have not blocked from running for office the way at least they do in South America. So think of affirmative action as we're in a foot race. And we may not think of it that way, but there are only so many openings and so many places to get the education that allows you to move forward. And so if you're in a black family and you haven't had the opportunities to learn, and you don't have a path to help you get into that race, then you have affirmative action. And there are many gifted people out there, and the way we measure success is not always a fair indicator of what a person will do to be successful, meaning to think, use their independent mind, their experiences, and so forth, and to share in the diversity that we claim is the American prize. So the affirmative action case is another one that was decided badly by the Supreme Court. Now, there's what some might consider a minor one, but I don't. When I was a kid in New York in the 50s, I saw on TV people lined up to sit at lunch counters, and they weren't served, and they were abused, and people who got on buses were killed. And JFK, who was my president, always will be, he was slow to the fight, but he and Bobby put people down there to help them. And Eisenhower, who probably didn't like the role he was cast in, did the same. That's the America that matters. That's the America that takes care of all of us. That's the America that says you're entitled, and what was it about? To go to school. Segregation was wrong. Here in Virginia, there was a machine, massive resistance. Delay. That's what they do. When people delay for no good reason, meaning they just hope as a Hail Mary pass that by delaying somewhere down the road, they'll be able to win the day, that they'll wear out their opponents, outspend them, coerce them, threaten them, do whatever. All of this is not an exaggeration. We've seen it. We've seen it especially with Trump, but we've seen it otherwise. And that's just not acceptable. And so the Supreme Court has said, pick your discrimination. Today it is, and I don't know how real this claim was, but okay, let's assume it was real. I won't make a website for a gay couple. Well, you're an asshole. I mean, besides being a discriminating, well, fill in a blank there. I've only presided over one marriage. I participated in others, my own. I only presided over one marriage, and it was a gay couple, and it was one of the most beautiful things. The families together, the couple embraced. They were older. They had lived. Excuse me, I slipped. They had lived a life that taught them what mattered, and and as one of my gifts from this was they gave me a brilliant bow tie that I occasionally wear on the air. What is wrong with a person that says, "Yeah, I could put together a website, but I'm not because you're gay"? Oh, really? What about the art of designing something that's a challenge to be special that you don't usually do? You religiously are so opposed to gays that you would not help them celebrate their union. What's wrong with you? And if you can discriminate against whether or not, two people can have a wedding website, well, are they going to next not be allowed to sit at a lunch counter? And what are these churches doing? If the churches have decided to be in politics, well, then strip them of their tax deductions. Strip them of the support that they receive by not having to pay taxes like everybody else. The biggest problem in America is that we have the laws. We have the tradition. We have the tools to make a difference. My dad always said a poor workman, always blames his tools. Well, my dad, his expertise went beyond being a carpenter, electrician, and plumber. And maybe World War II was a large part of that, because I didn't know him except stories before that. But if we're not using the tools we have, the Constitution and the laws, to say, no, you can't do that, then there's something wrong with us. Because then the law means nothing. Then chaos is acceptable. Then dictatorships are imaginable. There's the old Latin expression, quo vadis. Where are we going? Where are you going? Well, in my view, we are going to return our republic and our democracy to its former status. Even if compromised, even if hedged in, we cannot accept where this nation is going. And what people don't understand is that what we're fighting are not people who believe or care about issues. They don't care if their people get to eat, they get health, that the children are healthy, that the children are wanted. They don't care what the mothers give up. They don't care about a family stalled because they're black. They don't care if others don't get medicine for all the very many things they have. They don't believe that a person can be of ill health and not have something else wrong with them, that they didn't work out things with their maker. All of these things are the crooked, rotten, upside down, non-value system that they're fighting for. And they want kids, I suppose, to be cannon fodder in the war they see coming to take over this godless nation. Well, if this is God, nobody should subscribe to him, her, it, or whatever it is. But if you have a faith in the goodness of man and believe in charity for all, and you work at that, then you don't do these other things. And there is no Christian in the Republican Party. Not when you can have as your figurehead a guy like Trump, who is the devil and evil incarnate. And that's not acceptable. Now, I'm not religious. I was, but I'm not anymore. But I am a humanist. I do care about people. I do care what we do that matters. I do care about politics. And I do care that we get it right. The Republicans don't. That's what eggs us on to fight them. That's what says enough's enough. Time to tighten our fists and get ready to fight. So, that's what I have to say in the 87 degrees. I'm sorry I missed you the last couple of days, but I've been grinding out some papers for the court, and I finished it late Friday, and I've been getting my measure of normalcy ever since then. So, have a good evening. I may talk to you again tomorrow. All the best, and welcome to our Cathedral of Trees, where people care about each other, and the trees care about us too. Bye-bye.